Analyzing the WWE Smackdown Live roster. Alexis Carrillo here, back with some more wrestling talk content on the Alexis Carrillo brand YouTube channel. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any wrestling talk content in the future. And I know it's been a few days, kind of like 10 days after the draft, after the Superstar Shakeup, I should say. And this past Monday, we analyzed Monday Night Raw's roster, a brand new roster. You know, all their superstars were divided into subcategories, and those subcategories being tag teams, lower mid-card, upper mid-card, main event, and the women's main event, and the women's mid-card. So now it's time to analyze the Smackdown Live roster, and the first thing I want to say is that it's definitely the biggest winner of this Superstar Shakeup, because I remember all the reactions on social media. I remember all the comments after Monday Night Raw. The fact that most of SmackDown Live's mid-card at that time, or the strongest part of SmackDown Live's mid-card on Monday night, was drafted over to Raw. Everyone was kind of saying, wow, they gutted SmackDown Live. Wow, they left SmackDown Live in pure bones. And then we show up on Tuesday nights. SmackDown Live, and we start getting, first and foremost, the arrival of Jeff Hardy, the United States Championship, back on SmackDown Live. Then we get the arrival of Samoa Joe, the Samoan submission machine. And you know, this all just keeps rolling, because even in the tag team division, I did not think that they would leave the New Day, the Bludgeon Brothers, and the Usos on the same brand. I thought at least one of those three tag teams was going to be drafted over to Raw, and they weren't. So those were the three strongest tag teams, not only on SmackDown Live, but in the WWE. And they also draft the club, well, the Good Brothers, I should say, Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows. And they also, on top of that, they draft Cesaro and Sheamus, the Boar, 4-time Raw Tag Team Champions. And even on top of that, to round out the tag team division, we've got the team from Sanity, Alexander Wolf and Eric Young, all being drafted to SmackDown Live. So really, I've already started with analyzing this SmackDown Live roster. Obviously, the tag teams. Just those 6 tag teams that I have already mentioned, they are without a shadow of a doubt, in my opinion, the strongest tag teams in WWE today, which really makes it exciting for the SmackDown Live brand to move away from the Bludgeon Brothers versus the Usos feud, so we can start getting all these 6 very strong tag teams, mixing it up. And then the oddball tag team, and the 2 members of the SmackDown Live roster that I would not be surprised if they were future endeavored. Not that I want them to be, but you know, the roster just got bigger on the main roster, so I would not be surprised if the team of Epico and Primo were not only future endeavored, but en route to being future endeavored. They were positioned as jobbers to the Boar, as jobbers to the Good Brothers, as jobbers to the New Day. I would not be surprised if that happened. Well, that's in a tag team division. Obviously, SmackDown Live has got the edge over Monday Night Raw in that area. Going into the lower mid-card, we've got superstars like Ty Dillinger, like Shelton Benjamin, like the Singh brothers, possibly another tag team, possibly not. They don't really wrestle. Then we've got the estranged R-Truth, who just seems to not know if he's on Raw or if he's on SmackDown. Loving those segments, by the way. And we've got Aiden English. Even though he's a part of Rusev Day with Rusev, I think they're going to go more the singles route with both superstars. And Aiden English is definitely a superstar that belongs in the lower mid-card for the moment. They have not built him up to be a real threat to absolutely anybody if he isn't, tagging with Rusev. And then we've got the mid-card. The mid-card, I suppose, or I envision that it's going to be all about the United States Championship or the Midcard Championship in any single one of these brands. I position these superstars on the midcard level because I believe that for the next year or for the next 6 to 10 months, they're going to be fighting over that title. In that mid-card subcategory, we've got the returning Sin Cara, who, you know, I just put him here to put him here, but he could easily be moved down to the lower mid-card simply because he has not had enough wins. But I put him in the mid-card because before his injury, he was fighting for the United States Championship. So that's why I position him there. Then we've got the NXT call-ups. We've got Killian Dane, who I think needs to be a part of the mid-card, who I think needs to be a part of the main roster so that he could get used to it, so that the fans can get used to him, and therefore I don't see WWE pulling the trigger on Killian Dane being in the upper mid-card or close to the main event. And then we've got Andrade Cien Almas. Now I know this man, El Ídolo, definitely has potential to be in the main event. We saw it at NXT TakeOver Philadelphia. We saw it at NXT TakeOver New Orleans. He is definitely a top star, and I think one day he will be positioned in that position. He will be positioned in the main event for the WWE Championship or for the Universal title. But the reason I put him in the mid-card is the same reason I put Killian Dane in the mid-card. The fans need to get used to him. He needs to get used to being on the main roster. And I think a good full year of Andrade Cien Almas dominating the United States Championship scene would just be perfect for him and for the audience to get acquainted with him. Then we've got another controversial decision. Rusev in the mid-card. It is no surprise to me, and pretty much to anybody that follows WWE today, that WWE just does not want to push Rusev to the upper mid-card or to the main event level. I don't know what their problem is. I don't know if they use earplugs when Rusev is out there and everybody's chanting Rusev Day. But, you know, to each their own, and WWE right now, I think they're going to really keep Rusev in the mid-card because, like I said, Smackdown Live just got a big amount of talent coming in, and really Rusev, I think it's going to be the odd man out. And finally, Samoa Joe in the mid-card. I know, I'm crazy, but like I said, tons of stars can be a part of the main event. That is why Samoa Joe is in the mid-card. And can you imagine Andrade Cien Almas versus Samoa Joe for the United States Championship on a pay-per-view at SummerSlam? Could you imagine that? SmackDown Live has become the land of the dream matches instead of, you know, the land of opportunity. We've got the upper mid-card. We've got Big Cass, who just returned a few weeks ago. WWE was very high on Big Cass before he got injured. I think they're going to position him in the upper mid-card, close to the main event. Not quite there yet, but he will be, you know, tiptoeing on both categories. Then we've got Jeff Hardy, another man who could easily be a part of the main event. He definitely draws. And may I remind you that Jeff Hardy's highest point in WWE was, I think, his last year or his last year and a half with the company on SmackDown Live, being WWE Champion, being World Heavyweight Champion against CM Punk. That was his highest point. I think they can recreate the magic with Jeff Hardy in SmackDown Live. And then we've got the A-lister, The Miz. Everybody wants to see The Miz versus Daniel Bryan. We're eventually going to get that. And I hope we get it soon, because in the main event, I hope at SummerSlam, like I said, land of dream matches. I hope we get a Nakamura versus Daniel Bryan, a Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles, AJ Styles versus a Nakamura again at SummerSlam. Those would be great contest for the WWE Championship. The main event is packed on SmackDown Live. AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton, Shinsuke Nakamura, and the part-timer himself, John Cena, who is not afraid to come back and position himself back onto the main event for a world title. Then we have to go to the women's side of things. We've got the main event of the women's division, which I think is very lacking, or should I say lacking strongly in the heel category. Because right now, Carmella is the only heel in that main event position. And everyone else, be it Asuka, Becky Lynch, Naomi, and Charlotte, which I have positioned in the main event of SmackDown Live in terms of the women's division, they are babyfaces. But it is rumored that next year's WrestleMania's main event will be a Charlotte versus Ronda Rousey in the actual main event, the actual closing match of the show. So it would not surprise me in the least that they turn Charlotte back heel. That's her forte. That's where she is at her strongest. That would not surprise me in the least. And then we've got the women's mid-card. We've got Tamina, who I think is still on the injured list. We've got Lana. Lana still got to work on a lot of stuff. Nikki Bella. Haven't seen her in a while. Sonya Deville, Mandy Rose, they've got potential, but they've really got to get some wins, and they've got to get a little bit more traction on the main roster. And then we've got the Iconics. Billie Kay, Peyton Royce, tremendous heels, and I think built properly, I think in about 5-6 months they can be taken seriously in the main event of the women's division for a SmackDown Women's Championship match at a pay-per-view. So, that's my overall analysis of the SmackDown Live roster. I am definitely looking forward to SmackDown Live in the coming weeks, in the coming months, in the coming years. Well, in the coming year, I should say. With this kind of roster, it is a show I will definitely not miss. So, I want to hear your thoughts on the SmackDown Live roster. What do you think? Do you think they lost a few superstars that they should have kept? Or do you think that they were, or do you agree with me in that they were the overall winners of the superstar shakeup? Leave a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe to the Alexis Carrillo Brand YouTube channel. See you next time.